here with lesson 38 on fractions and mixed numbers on a number line. So, a mixed number is a whole number and a fraction together. An example would be like 3 and 1/2. 3 is the whole number, 1/2 is the fraction added to it. So here we have a number line, and I wrote a little L here and a G here to show you that this is the least and this is the greatest. We're going to come back to that a little later in the lesson. And we have our whole numbers labeled 0, 1, 2, and 3. But notice that there's a whole bunch of unlabeled parts between 0 and 1 and between 1 and 2. So just because there are this space in here doesn't mean that there's nothing there. And actually, all of these represent fractions or decimals in addition to the whole numbers. So we're going to look at how to read a number line and to write mixed numbers from a number line. So let's start with, and I wanted to show you that sometimes they're shown with a little arrow pointing to the spot, and sometimes a point is drawn right on the number line like that. So let's figure out what these places are. Let's start right here with this one. The important thing is to figure out how many spaces the big space between each whole number is broken into, or how many parts there are. So between 0 and 1, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So this whole between 0 and 1 is broken into 4 different parts. And so whenever we're talking about fractions and parts, the number of parts always becomes our denominator. So that's going to be however many parts these whole numbers were broken into will be the denominator of your fraction. And then how many parts it went from 0 is what your numerator will be. So a point on a number line is named as its distance from 0. That's our goal, to figure out how far away the point is from 0. So let's start with point A. Okay, so this is where we're trying to get to, and we're always coming from 0. So I'm going to look for the whole numbers first. What whole number is right before A? Good, 1. So that means that this whole number is going to be 1 and then some fraction. It doesn't get all the way to 2, but it is more than 1, so I can't just say that it's 1. So we already figured out that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts that this whole is broken into. So I know that that is going to be my denominator. And now I need to figure out what my numerator is going to be. And so I want to see how many parts basically are filled in, just like what we were doing with our drawing fractions. So there's 1, 2, 3 of these parts are filled in, or A has gone past. And so my numerator is going to be a 3. So point A would be 1 3/4. This leads us up to our example. Our example says, name the fraction / mixed number shown by each arrow on the number line above and the number line below. So we just did A, and I'll write that right in. It's 1 3/4. Now let's look at B. So first I'm going to look for the whole number right before B, which is a 2. So I know that my whole number is going to be a 2, and I wrote that down right away. Now for the fraction, I need to know how many parts there are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, and I'm going to write that as my denominator. All right, now how many parts are filled in? 1, 2 to get to B, and so that's my numerator. But wait, I'm not done yet, because this is not a simplified fraction. 2/4 is the same thing as 2 1/2. And we already did a lesson on recognizing halves, and so now we should know that 2/4 is the same thing as 1/2. Now I can also show you up here with this number line how we know that it's 1/2, because if I broke it into 4 pieces, 2 were filled in. But if I had only had this as 1 piece and this as 1 piece and had 2 parts, then 1 of the 2 parts would have been totally filled in. Let's look at C. So point C is a little tricky because the number right before C is a 0. So I don't even need to write that. This isn't going to be a mixed number. It's just a fraction. It didn't even get to a whole number yet. So we're just going to write the fraction part of this number. So we already figured out there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. And C is 1 full part away from 0. And so I'm going to write that fraction as 1/4. 1/4. Okay, I have a new number line down here for D and E. So I found D. First thing I do is look for the mixed number or the whole number before it, which is a 2. And now for the fraction, I want to see how many parts this is broken into. We have 1, 2, 3. 3 parts between the whole number of 2 and 3. And so my denominator for this one is not going to be a 4 like it has been in the other problems. It's going to be a 3. And how many of these parts did I go through before I got to D, or before it? Just 1. So that is my numerator, 2 1/3. All right, here's our last example. We have E. So the whole number right before E is 3. There are 1, 2, 3 parts, and it has gone through 1, 2 to get to E. So my final answer is 3 2/3. All right. So the last type of example that you might see from this lesson asks you to refer to the number line to compare. If you remember from up here, I told you that anything to the left is always the least or the smallest numbers, and going to the right are always the greatest or bigger numbers. So if 2 numbers are on a number line, I can always say the one all the way to the right is bigger than one to the left. So in this example, they have a number line and they have marked some fractions for you. This says 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, 2/3, and 3/4. And it asks me to compare. Well, this is nice and easy that they put them on a number line for me, because I just have to find which one is the farthest right to know which one is the greatest, or the one all the way to the left will be the one that is the least. So 1/3 and 3/4. 1/3 is right here, and 3/4 is right here. So which one is bigger or greater? Good, 3/4. So 1/3 is less than 3/4, or 3/4 is greater than 1/3. All right, what about B? 1/4 and 2/3. Well, 1/4, I'm going to draw it down here so we can see that it's separate from the other ones. And 2/3 is right here. So which one is bigger? 2/3. Good. And our last question is 1/2 and 3/4. So 3/4 is right here. And 1/2 is right here. So which one is bigger? 3/4. All right, that is everything that you will learn in this lesson. So go ahead and get to work.